What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another awesome Tusken Download Trio review for the Vintage Collection Figures 3.75 inch. We, of course, from left to right have the Book of Boba Fett Tusken Warrior, Return of the Jedi Darth Vader Deathstar II with all of his battle damage, and Bad Batch Clone Captain Howzer. An amazing trio of figures that I was so happy to find at my local Walmart today, and was really surprised to actually find them all, as I know these two come far more limited in that pack. This, I believe, only has a single figure, as does Howzer, whereas the Tusken Warrior, Han Solo, and I believe Cassian Andor also comes with two of these. So these are the more harder ones to find, and I was super happy to find them. Not only was I able to get them, but I was able to actually find pretty much all of them in very remarkable shape, guys. Look at that. Nothing too crazy with the cards. Yeah, you can tell obviously there's a little bend here and there on some of them. That is extremely normal, though, when you're getting these from a full, like, brick and mortar retail store, because honestly, those boxes are not packed with love and care. I can promise you guys that. So first off, we're going to be looking at the Book of Boba Fett Tusken Warrior. I have to say, this is a absolutely stellar figure that I'm really in love with. I absolutely was enamored, I should say, by this character in the Book of Boba Fett. So first, let's get a good look at the card back there. We can see two other Tuskens back in the very dark background, kind of, of course, more granular and faded as they are the background. Looking very good into our awesome Tusken Warrior female here. The belt, the sashes, all of the flowing in the wind. A marvelous picture for a really great character. I love the light green pill behind both the name and figure. Let's take a nice, again, close pan shot for you here. Book of Boba Fett. Single band surrounding. Tatooine makes for a very good background, as it's just very bleak. And that nice dark black outfit that she wears really shines through. Speaking of shining through, that Kenner stands out really well. I actually really like that Kenner placement. Now to look at the figure herself. Very simple. Nothing too crazy when it comes to accessories. We do have the gaffy stick she uses to fight with, which is, all a Tusken Warrior is really going to need. So it's a really, really amazing accessory to have. The figure itself, head sculpt looks amazing, as most Tuskens do. You can barely, just up top here, see the top caps, maybe from moisture or whatever they are, protruding through. There's a little moisture collector right there. Soft goods down here on this skirt. Hard shell shoes, of course. The nice light brown from a lot of other Tuskens. This centerpiece of beads is also hard plastic, and then everything from the waist up is also a hard plastic. So the only soft goods they have is the skirt down below. TVC 279. There's the rest of the gobbledygook. But yeah, guys, an absolutely stellar figure, and a very, very amazing character to get from the Book of Boba Fett. Next, we will be going over Clone Captain Howzer, one of my personal favorites from the Bad Batch, as any clone who can become self-aware and realizes the atrocities that they've caused within the Empire is definitely a clone for me. This one I really enjoy, as the Bad Batch always seems to get this really awesome double band effect, whereas multiple of the others, the Star Wars logo is just a single band, like you can see back here with Return of the Jedi and Book of Boba Fett. But the Clone Wars, for whatever reason, gets this awesome double track here that really does well coming out of the W into the S. Absolutely love that. The photo here for the card back, I'm not going to lie, guys, it's a little grainy. As you can kind of see, it's not exactly the perfect picture. They had so many things from animation stills to artist renditions, which I believe this would be, of course, an artist rendition. But it just looks a little too granular to me, and a little too fuzzy around the edges. The background, I would believe, should be Ryloth, as of course that is where Clone Captain Howzer was stationed. Having this nice teal blue armor, Kind of matches with this darker green. Now, of course, a darker green does make the clone captain part a little harder to see. And it's kind of loses a lot of its coloring from the dark blue to that dark green, as the dark blue turns more into a green when you're looking at that background. TVC 210, of course, far earlier than the others, as Clone Captain Howzer also came out in the Bad Batch multi-pack. Now for the figure itself, we got the helmet there. It's well designed and it has a very good paint app on it, in my opinion. The face has a very good look to it, very, classic clone Tamora Morrison face. Of course, I've noticed this with a lot of figures. A lot of them are looking down the way they get placed into this bubble. I would really almost start hoping that quality control just goes through and kind of, push the head back a little. Center stripe here has a really good amount of weathering on it, as does most of the coloring. The actual armor itself doesn't really seem to have almost any weathering, but where there is paint, it has definitely chipped and been smudged and broken off. It's good to see some weathering, but I feel like when you see the weathering over here, like on the arm and the pauldron, it should also be here, but at the same time, that's very nitpicky of me. It is still a great figure, and I'm always happy to add another clone to my lineup. And not just any clone, of course, but the amazing Howzer, who does actually help a lot of his fellow clones realize the atrocities they've been causing on Ryloth. I think the Kinder logo down here really pops with the figure being more or less the same color, a nice light blue and then a bright pristine white. That bright pristine white is definitely more for the figure's sake than over here on the card back sake, but again, all around a very good figure. And if my only nitpick is a little extra weathering, you know what? If I was an opener, I could do that myself. Alright guys, but now for the ultimate piece to this collection. A figure that I felt I needed since the millisecond I saw it. This Darth Vader is now hands down my #1 favorite Darth Vader memorabilia I pretty much own. Second only to the signed Dan Prowse Vader picture. But this figure is absolutely everything I wanted in a Return of the Jedi figure, as this is one of my absolute favorite moments for Darth Vader, getting to remove his helmet, see his son, and be the man that Luke Skywalker knew his father could be again. So let's look at the card back real quick, which, oh man, I know even over on Bosk's Bounty, shout out to Bosk, he put this as his #1 Vader almost entirely because of this card back, and I cannot agree anymore. This card back is really what sold me on this figure immediately. Sebastian Shaw just sitting there with that look on his face of just being purely beaten down in mind and soul. The scarring, which really matches the figure well. It's just an absolutely brilliant card back. And again, from my favorite movie and one of my favorite scenes. I love the ending to Return of the Jedi. Of course, we have the Return of the Jedi badge up here in the top corner. But let's get on to the meat and potatoes. The man himself, the myth, the legend, Darth Vader. As you can see here, he has the outside of his helmet here. There is the inside mask portion. His head rests with the mouthpiece, much like it does over here in the card back. The accessories in this would easily have made it a deluxe in the way that Hasbro thinks of most of their deluxes now anyway. Like, it blows my mind how we can get a figure like this with all these amazing accessories, not a deluxe, but then we get a deluxe that comes with like half the amount of times. But I digress. This figure was worth every single penny, and I am so happy it's in the $16 price range. I feel like everyone should have this Vader if you are a Vader fan. VC 280. We of course have the Return of the Jedi logo up here with the single stripe and single racetrack around. Still absolutely gorgeous. The silver racetrack really matches the background, and of course this pristine egghead. Looking at the face sculpt here though, a lot of people are upset because it's actually more face sculpted, or I should say figure sculpted, after Hayden Christensen's Darth Vader. Which to me is perfect, because this Vader, even though I know it is supposed to be directly from Death Star II, he looks younger. He doesn't have that same vibe that an older Sebastian Shaw Vader had. And it's not a bad thing. I love Hayden Christensen as Darth Vader. The Kenner logo here at the bottom really pops with that dark, with all the dark Darth Vader suit behind it. We have right next to it this beautiful red saber, which I think those two contrast really well, which again, the contrast between those two is another thing that just makes this figure so eye-catching. The removed hand, the unlit saber, the hand you can put back on, and then boom, we would have a normal Darth Vader. But guys, this is without a doubt one of my absolute favorite figures I have ever gotten, and I look forward to one day this being topped, but for right now, no way. This is the #1 figure I own, right next to my Darth Malgus. Well guys, thank you so much, and thank you for joining as we ramble on about the amazing vintage collection figures that I was able to pick up. Before we get too crazy into this though guys, make sure to go down below, hit the like button so that I know you enjoy the vintage collection reviews and breakdowns. Make sure to subscribe to the channel as I have so many more of these coming out. Don't worry, I always plan on getting the next wave, even though I tell myself I won't. And lastly, make sure that you comment your favorite figure from this recent line of TVC. As we all know, I gotta give it hands down to Vader. Well everybody, have an amazing rest of your evening, and as always, may the Force serve you well.